Ephesians 6, Paul talks about putting on the whole armor of God. And it says, finally, my brethren, be strong in the Lord and in the power of his might. Put on the whole armor of God, that you may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. Therefore, take unto you the whole armor of God, that you may be able to stand in the evil day. And having done all, stand. Stand therefore, having your loins girded about with truth, and having on the breastplate of righteousness, and your feet shod with the preparation of the gospel of peace. Above all, taking the shield of faith, wherein you shall be able to quench all the fiery darts of the wicked. And take the helmet of salvation, and the word of the Spirit, which is the word of God, praying always with all prayer and supplication in the Spirit, and watching thereunto with all perseverance and supplication for all saints. So you see, Paul is reminding the church of Ephesians, he's reminding them that we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities and wickedness in high places. And he also tells us how to combat the enemy by putting on the whole armor of God. He says, praying always with all prayer and supplication in the Spirit, and watching thereunto with all perseverance and supplication for all saints. So you see, it's really not the co-worker that's coming against you. I mean, you see that in the flesh. It's really not that person that's walking in the flesh that you see that's coming against you or that's combating. We wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities and wickedness in high places. So Paul tells us to take everything into prayer and supplication. That's how we fight our battles. When Paul said stand and do all that you have done and stand, I am reminded of when the Israelites, God had sent Moses to free the Israelites. Well, we know the story about Pharaoh. He didn't want to let God's people go. God requested that Pharaoh let his people go so that they can worship him. So we all know that Pharaoh wanted to keep them in slavery, which represented bondage. So when God speaks a word into your life, and when he speaks and tells the enemy that he has to let you go, a lot of the warfare that we are facing and that we're going through now is because of the words that God has already spoken over our lives. He has already destined us to be in this place. So the enemy is using people around to stop and block what God has already prepared for you. So Pharaoh wouldn't let the people go, but God sent plagues over the land. He sent different plagues. He sent different things, and so Pharaoh had to release the people. But we know that when God's people, chosen people, was released out of bondage, they did not go empty-handed. They left with all of the things, all of the things that the gold. They left with everything. They left with everything, and they as they was leaving and going out, Pharaoh decided, oh, I can't let you go. So he got his army and he came behind the Israelites. So the Israelites were stuck in between a rock and a hard place. But I tell you what, when Moses started to cry out to the Lord asked him, what do you have in your hand? Well, Moses was holding a rod. And he also told Moses, the enemies that you see today, you will see no more. He told Moses to stretch out that rod, and Moses stretched out that rod, and that Red Sea parted. And And the Israelite walked onto dry land over to the other side. And when the enemies came in like a flood, God lifted up a standard before the enemies. And that Red Sea came down on those enemies and washed them away. So you see, the word that God has spoken over your life, can't no devil in hell, can't nothing and nobody stop it. Because what God has spoken, he said his word will not return unto him void. So I am here today to tell someone that whatever God has destined you and whatever he has spoken over your life, I don't care how much warfare, I don't care how much opposition that you're seeing, that cannot and will not stop the plans that God has for your life. I'm here to tell you today, stand and see the salvation of the Lord. The enemies you see today, you won't see no more. And when you have done all to do, stand.